Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a brand positioning strategies and book marketing expert, no other than Miss Valerie Morris. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Valerie, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm a book marketing strategist. Started off in the content marketing space, and after reverse engineering the process for other authors I've worked with, and for my own book, I kind of fell into doing a lot more marketing work for other authors. And so the last 6 years, a lot of the marketing work that I've done has really shifted over towards authors. And I realized that a lot of authors they focus so much on just getting their book in hand that they kind of forget that there's this whole piece of promoting your book that you have to do and put some thought to. So that's one of the things that I really love infusing just the marketing basics into the conversation around books.
Indeed, marketing is the hardest one. And thank you so much for being one of those marketing expertise, Miss Valerie. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And how do you define effective book marketing? And what the principles guide your approach?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I like to focus on, and the things that guides me, is really having a good handle on the timing that it takes. And so, for example, I even had an author recently here this spring who their publisher said, "Hey, it's going to be ready. It's going to be ready. It's going to be ready," and then it wasn't ready. And instead of building in some extra buffer to promote the book, they were going with just the absolute last minute. As soon as the book was available for purchase online, that was when they launched. And a lot of times, the reality is people don't know when your book is going live. They have no idea. You tell them what date the book is going to be live. You get to decide that. So I always encourage people to give yourself extra time than what you think you're going to need, because that's just going to give you more time to focus on building up the buzz. Your book can be completely ready to go long before you actually have your official launch date. And that's okay. That just means that you're 100% ready to go for it. Instead of feeling like you're scrambling and having to push back your launch date to the world like this author did. So that's one of the biggest things, is just giving yourself enough time and giving yourself enough buffer and margin, because there are things that come up. There are hiccups. There are things that delay the process that sometimes are out of your control. And so the more you can just allow yourself to be prepared for anything, that extra little bit of time can be so, so effective. The other big thing that kind of guides everything that I do in terms of book marketing is to not go at it alone. And that's why launch teams are so effective, and why I always encourage authors to focus on building strategic launch teams for their book. The launch team is going to give you the confidence to know that you are not at this alone, but it's also going to give you kind of that social proof, if you will, to the rest of the world. So when your book goes live, you have all these people posting about your book, talking about it, sharing it, buying it, reviewing it. They're doing all these different activities around your book, that they're building up this buzz for you on your behalf. So you don't really have to do a lot of the whole buy my book kind of thing. You got a whole bunch of other people saying you should go buy Daniel's book. You should go buy Valerie's book. They're doing it for you. So don't go at it alone, leverage your network, and a few strategic moves can really make a big difference.
Indeed, come over on Book One on review and let's promote to the world. What's the biggest mistake authors make when trying to identify or reach their target audience?
I think people just don't listen to who their people are. They don't pay attention and ask some questions. You can pose a lot of great questions in Facebook groups these days. You can go over to places like Reddit. You can go a lot of different places and get input from the people in your network that you think you're trying to reach. And you will discover some really interesting things about what their biggest pain points are, what they're interested in, what they want to learn, what they don't want to learn. And you might discover that really your audience is a completely different set of people. Or you may discover that your audience is the right group of people, but they want something different from you. And so just being willing to listen and give people what they want can be so incredibly powerful and so helpful to create a book that's actually going to help move the needle for your brand and for book sales.
Indeed. So, Miss Valerie, what are the most critical steps authors should take to build a momentum before the book's release?
Well, like I said, you want to build up some buzz well before your launch date. You want to have enough time. So one, that's for your own sanity, so that you're not stressed out when it comes to launch day. But one of the other big pieces is you want to make sure that you're priming your network that your book is coming, and you want to kind of be strategic about this. In today's world, people are getting bombarded with so many different pieces of information in any given day. We get so many advertisements coming our way that we really have to be strategic about not giving too much time. You don't want to get you don't want to give people too much time to where they're like, when is this book launching? How far away is this? What am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be paying attention to? They start to kind of lose and get distracted. They lose momentum if you give them too much time. However, if you give them too little time, then one of the hard things about that is that your network doesn't have enough time to really process what's going on. And so there is kind of a sweet spot depending upon what you're trying to do. But I will say, start talking about your book long before your launch date. And it can be, I tell people, as soon as you know for sure that your book is happening, as soon as you are 100% confident that your book is actually something you will finish, go ahead and share about it. Take people along for the process of what it looks like to write it, what it looks like to edit it. What are your biggest pain points in finding a publisher or figuring out how to format your book? What are your biggest pain points in figuring out book covers or getting forwards and endorsements for your book? Let them know where you're at in the process. By taking them along in the journey, you actually build up some excitement for it. And then as you get closer to whatever launch date you're really going after, as you get closer to that date, you want to pick up the acceleration. So you're going to be talking about it more frequently, but you can be dropping it out as little breadcrumbs, if you will, along the way for months before your book comes out. But like I said, it gets more concentrated the more you want to focus people's attention.
Why is building an email list still considered a must have in book marketing? And what's your top tip for growing one?
Okay, so I've been in the social media space since Facebook really became a thing for businesses. I was on it even before then as a personal user because it came out when I was in college. So I'm very comfortable with social media. I understand the importance. I know that there's a good reason for it, and I encourage it for a lot of my clients for so many different reasons. However, when you're on these platforms like social media, you are playing by their rules. At any point, they could take your profile down. They could flag you. They could, you could get reported for something crazy, and you could lose access to your entire profile and the entire audience that you've built up on that social media platform. Email is one of the main channels where you control how many people are on there. You can send your email out to everyone on your list. Now, whether they are busy that day and don't open it, or maybe they're having server issues and it bounces, but by and large, you have a lot more control over how many people receive that email that you send out. And it's an email list that you own. Of course, people can unsubscribe and all of that fun jazz, but it is a place where people are definitely engaged, and it's a place where you kind of can set more of the rules. So I always encourage people to use other platforms like social media to build your audience list. And, for many years, people have been talking about, is email dead? Is email going to die? And yet, email continues to be the main central hub that people keep coming back to. I'm seeing platforms like Substack growing in popularity these days. I get all of my Substack notifications as email notifications. It's very rare that I go and surf Substack. It's more email notifications around people I'm following, and then I pop over to Substack. So email continues to be the main hub, and it's a really great place where you can be as short and brief as you want, or you can get long and wordy, depending upon how you want to show your personality. But it's a really nice place to make it feel like it's more of an intimate space. Your network feels like they're part of an inner circle when they're on your email list. And authors have a great opportunity here with email lists. I see so many authors that kind of blank, like, what can I even talk about? The reality is, you're not promoting your book, you're promoting you. You are the brand. You, as the author, are the face of that book. And you explore the themes and topics around what your book is about every day in new and exciting ways. And so just because your book may have come out 1 month, 2 months, 3 years, who knows how long ago, there's new things that you're learning and coming across every day that are applicable to the same themes in your book. And you could be exploring those all the time in something new like an email. And the more you engage with your email list, and I like to ask my email list questions, but the more you do that, the more you actually find that people actually do hit reply.
Yes.
And if you pay attention, you will get some really great ideas for what people want for maybe your next book. So that's one of the biggest things. I think a simple, easy way to grow your list is to make sure it's very prominent on your website. That's a very simple, low-hanging fruit kind of a thing. And then the other way that I've grown my email list a lot is actually through paid advertisement with a lead magnet. And I've done that for, a couple of years now, and it's worked really well to get my word out to people that are beyond my current scope of reference in a way that's affordable. It's not overly expensive to run these meta ads. And at the same time, I'm drawing people in to my network and priming them with great solid content on a regular basis. As I get closer to launching my next book, I will start talking more and more about these specific calls to action. In the meantime, I'm letting them know about other resources that I have along the way. And I do have now this nice library of resources for authors. So most of my network are other authors as well. So I have a lot of nice things I can promote to them, even though I don't have my next book out yet.
Beautifully articulated. Miss Valerie, very well said. How do you balance organic marketing efforts with paid strategies like ads or influencer partnerships?
Yeah, so like I mentioned just now, the email list building is probably one of the biggest ways that I use the paid ads. I use it with other clients of mine as well as my own. And I use it, honestly, at the beginning, it was just to kind of test out some new ideas. But I love it because it brings people who are interested in a certain topic into the fold, into my network. And then organically, they get all of my email lists on a regular basis. The emails I send out are just to people on my list. But many of those people have paid, or I've paid to get in front of, to invite them to be on that list. So that's one of the things that I've done. And yes, there's definitely some people who unsubscribe. There's definitely some fall off. So it's not a perfect system, but at the same time, I have all of these people now who are attracted to my content that are sticking around. And it's been very, very helpful, very, very effective. And it's been fairly affordable as well. I think one of the biggest things is when you're running any sort of paid ads, you want to make sure you know what your goal is. In this instance, my goal is to get email subscribers. It's not to sell products. The email sequences are selling the products. The email sequences are selling my online courses and my other resources, right?
Yes.
I'm not necessarily promoting those products to a cold audience. I probably could, but they're not going to be nearly as effective or as affordable. So when I talk to people who get frustrated about, hey, this is costing me a lot of money to run ads, I say, what's your main goal? If your goal here is just awareness, you're not necessarily going to be selling a lot of widgets or whatever. If your goal is really to sell the right things, you want to make sure that your call to action and the intent of your campaign to start is appropriate with what you want to do. When it comes to organic pieces, I really believe that the organic side of things feels a lot like SEO versus Google Ads. Google Ads, if you need a quick win, you can put some money behind it and get those conversions in the door, right?
Yes.
But growing organic traction to get to that number one spot organically with SEO, that takes time. That takes time to build trust, to build authority. It's the same thing with social media. You can run paid ads to build authority or to get some quicker conversions. But in the long run, your social media network is where you're going to be building authority. You're going to be building trust. And it's a place really where you can showcase a lot of that expertise as you build that relationship.
Miss Valerie, what is your advice for getting early reviews and how do they impact a book's visibility long term?
Yeah, reviews are so important. They don't necessarily, it's not like necessarily going to say like, oh, X number of views is going to translate to X number of sales for a book. However, I'm a big fan of focusing on getting the reviews as close to launch as possible. And the reason for this is because this is when you have the most eyeballs on your book at anywhere in any time in its history, right? So you're putting all this effort towards promoting your book. You might as well get those same people who are paying attention to go take action. And that's where your launch team can come into play. That's why I like to make sure that there's a focused group of people who have already raised their hand and said, yes, I will help Valerie out with her book. And therefore, I am committing to posting a review. And so those are some people, there's a lot of power in the psychology of saying, hey, Valerie, you already signed up to be part of this launch team. I'm just now calling you to follow through with what you said you were going to do. And most people are going to take it pretty seriously. You're going to have a little bit of attrition of people who don't follow through, but by and large, anyone who's signed up and said yes often feels a little bit of obligation to follow through. And so that's a nice way to get that nice surge of reviews from the start. Once you have those reviews, that gives social proof for your book. So you can do other forms of marketing to strangers or people you know alike to get them to look at your book. And once you have those reviews, it gives your book that credibility so that if a stranger stumbles upon your book, they say, hey, this is worth checking out because all these other people thought it was good. So I really encourage people focus on that at the beginning as part of your launch strategy. And it's a lot easier than the people that you see for 6-9 months after their book has went live, where they're sitting there, peddling people for, I need to get a few more reviews. Can you post a review? If you've read my book, write a review. It's not to say you can't have those posts, but you don't have to go about it in such a desperate manner. When you start from the beginning with this nice surge of reviews, you can almost sit back and relax a little bit. Take a big deep breath because your book has a lot of great social proof behind it to say, yes, this book is worth checking out.
Indeed. Miss Valerie, share a surprising or unconventional tactic you've seen work exceptionally well for a book promotion.
Wow. Okay. So something that's a little unexpected. I will just say personal video
Yes.
messages work really, really well. Any sort of personal touch that you can put or to the people in your network for them to take action is really going to go far. Now, I realize that depending upon what you're working on, you might need to send some mass emails. You might need to send some mass messages. But if there are specific people that you know will take action because you sent them a personalized message, go ahead and send it. Those personalized touches are really going to help people to be better advocates for your book. And so I really encourage people to be thinking strategically about who are those people that you should be letting know about your book when it's live, and get strategic. And, like for me, when my book went live, I made personalized messages to literally everyone on my launch team, thanking them for being part of the team. Took a few seconds to make the video. It was short, sweet, same script for every video. It took a little bit of effort to send it to each person, right? It's effort. But I blocked my whole launch day just to do these types of activities, and it paid off. Because if you think about it, you get a personalized message from me, odds are you're going to take action, you're going to follow through, and you're going to go tell your friends. You send a blank mass email out to dozens or hundreds or thousands of people, the follow through rate is much lower because people assume that, oh, Daniel has thousands of other people who will help him out. He doesn't need me. But when you send that personalized message, it gives people the psychology of like, oh, Valerie really needs me. I got to follow through. So if you have the opportunity to personalize anything, go for it. And video messages are a really simple way to do it.
Yes, people, go for it. Miss Valerie, as a brand positioning strategies and a book marketing expert, what are your short term and long term goals?
Oh goodness. Okay, so short term, I would like to finish my second book here. It's about halfway finished, and I my goal is to get it to at least that 90% point here in 2025. Long term, I my goal is to work with as many authors as possible. In the past, that's been, a few dozen every year. I'd love to double or triple that. And honestly, in the last year, thanks to building up some group programs and different things like that, I've been able to exponentially increase that. But honestly, I see so many people making mistakes in the publishing process. They get confused because they just don't know what they don't know. And my hope in the work that I do with authors is to simplify that process and make it more tangible and easy for authors so they can walk through that launch process without all the headache.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Valerie, and looking forward for your success. And what would be your advice for those people out there, first timer, to promote their book itself?
My best advice to you is that everyone is scared. Everyone is scared to put their book out there and to put themselves forward. So go ahead and just do it. Everyone's scared at some point. You aren't alone. Imposter syndrome is a real thing. But the reality is, you've done something really amazing by making a book that a lot of people are very impressed by, and honestly very jealous that you've done this amazing accomplishment. So go put it out there to the world. There's someone who needs to read it and hear your message.
Indeed, people, stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, and market to the world. Miss Valerie, is book talk is a viable strategy for nonfiction authors, or it's mostly fiction driven?
Most of the work I do is with nonprofit or for-profit people in the business space, nonfiction, and most of the work is usually where somebody has some sort of expertise to go alongside their book subject. So they might be a coach or, you know, a consultant, public speaker, and they've got some sort of business that it can bolt on and connect and support. Not to say that you couldn't do these same tactics with fiction or poetry or other genres, which I've done in the past, but it's nice when you can think about the book as part of the bigger brand. And a lot of fiction authors don't necessarily think that way. They think of it more as just like a one-time project. So if you're willing to think about it as a bigger piece of your author brand, there's a lot you can do for sure.
For sure. Totally agree with you, Miss Valerie. Before we wrap up our discussion for tonight, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, book 101 review in fifth season, comedy 101 in second season, food 101 in its fifth season too, geography 101 and love letters in third season, and my baby podcast, mental health 101, movie 101 review and music 101 in its fourth season. Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please do listen to them wherever you listen to your podcast. Miss Valerie, where do you see book marketing heading in the next 2 to 3 years, and how you should authors prepare?
I think the biggest thing right now is personalization. I would start getting comfortable with showcasing your own personality and some of the things that make you unique, the behind the scenes, the reason, the why behind your book, and start getting people connected to the things that you value and the things that you're bringing to the table. They will naturally connect with your book and any other projects you put forth. And as the world becomes so much more noisy, the more you can personalize, the more people are going to connect with things like you. You know, that maybe they are connected to the fact that you like to garden, or the fact that you like to ride horses, or the fact that you love to travel. They're going to connect and respect with things that they connect and respect with too. So you're going to attract the right people the more you showcase who you truly are. So don't be afraid to put your face forward in order to promote your book.
Miss Valerie Morris, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your business itself?
Yeah, wonderful. Well, you can find me at Tintero Creative, and you can always find me over on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out the most.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Valerie Morris, because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books to come. And inviting you, Miss Valerie, to come back and let's talk about your second book to be published. Let's promote to the world.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
So, Miss Valerie, thank you so much for your time. Modicon people, see you soon.